It is my great privilege to welcome up Iain Taylor, who is one of New Zealand's most incredible principals of a turnaround school, and he's going to tell you his story. So can we give, even though he's New Zealander, can we give Iain Taylor a huge standing ovation for this afternoon session?
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi hoki aho. Tihei Māori ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Hey, it's great to be here, even though I'm a Kiwi, and I hope you guys loved that game of rugby you had the other night. Anyway, we're a bit old-fashioned down in New Zealand, obviously, and I obviously didn't read the small print. And I've got a speech that I've written, so I'm going to be reading my speech off and on as well. Probably more on because I didn't learn it off by heart. But anyway, in 2008, Manareo Intermediate wasn't the school it was today. And in 2018, I'm not the man I was in 2008, with a hell of a lot less hair and a good few more kgs. But what I want to do first is I want to put on a video so that you can see the context of what our school looks like today. Why I wanted to show you the video first was so that you could understand the context we're working in, and I'm going to refer to the environment quite a bit throughout my speech, so you'll see why we think the environment is really important for our kids. So upon my arrival, there were some pretty severe issues, and there were loads of challenges to deal with, and in some pretty important places, all around school operations. All clearly documented in the Education Review Office Inspection Report over 6 years. The Ministry of Education had put in an intervention program and a statutory manager was in place. The issues range from the quality, competence and effectiveness of staff, the delivery of the curriculum, school organisation and lack of resources. Not a computer in sight for our kids, and this was in 2008. The finances were stuffed. We actually owed the bank $500,000. The property was unkept. The classrooms were still sporting blackboards, with most rooms untouched for a good 25 years, and vandalism was galore. We had the highest MOE vandalism reimbursement across the country, and the behaviour was appalling, and our overall student engagement was lacking. The principal's position came up, and I pondered long and hard, as I was perfectly happy in my relatively easy, successful, large, highest socioeconomic decile school in central Auckland. So in New Zealand, all our schools are ranked from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest socioeconomic. But 1 is then divided into 3 subgroups, 1A, 1B, 1C. So we are 1A. So you can imagine it's full of poverty and the whole lack of engagement in education. So why would I go south side to the lowest socioeconomic decile school in our country and a school in huge strife? From one extreme to the very other. The challenge, I kept saying, and to prove you can do great things in tough schools. And the pull of the community where I actually had grown up, and the very school where I was, a year 7 and 8 kid in 1978 and 79. The community in those days was very different to what it is now. And I had two of the most exciting and fun-filled and great learning at the school. And I seriously wanted every single kid in our school now to experience that too. So off I went for a pre-application visit in two minds about whether I would actually apply or not. 1 minute thinking no way, the next minute saying I would. During the visit, I saw firsthand how bad it was. The most significant observations on the day, seen chewing gum etched over every imaginable walking surface, seen the myriad of disengaged and clearly just hanging in there teachers, let alone so many bored and belligerent kids. Walking around the school was a real eye-opener. A desk came hurtling out of a classroom door, accompanied by the screaming of the person who had thrown it, a teacher. If I thought this was a one-off, a few rooms past this one showed me it certainly wasn't. This was just as bad, with a chair being biffed through an open sash window, followed by, as I'm sure you can imagine, some pretty choice words by the student who had flung it as he stormed out of the room. However, I also saw potential and a handful of staff who clearly cared and loved the school and these kids. This was certainly going to be way more than a challenge, and it would certainly be stretching me. And I smiled and I thought, yes, man, I'm going to love this challenge. So I took it. When a school is in meltdown and unloved, how do you fix it? First of all, you've got to put time in. You've got to put time in, along with spades and spades and spades of elbow grease, as is making a plan. You've got to also have a plan. So there's the plan. You're not going to be able to read that. I'm not expecting you to. But the plan was really, really basic. So the school's in total meltdown. We develop a plan. Not only does it give us direction, but it also lets the staff, students, and our board of trustees. So in New Zealand, every school is a single school. We are run by a separate board of trustees, and the board of trustees of my school are my employer and my boss, not the ministry or the state department. It's all self-managing schools. So we get our direction, letting the staff, students, and the board and community know that you mean business and that everyone has some responsibility in making their school better than it was before. And that was a chant we kept thinking. It's got to be better than before. The plan was fairly simple, yet was also like standing at the foot of Everest. We devised a plan separated into two parts, with quality and positive action permeating everything. Both parts, however, had the same ultimate goal. That was to have engaged and achieving kids. Both parts also had the same vision and how we would achieve the ultimate goal. That was to positively increase and improve culture, tone, and systems. Both parts also had the same focus and how we would achieve that ultimate goal and vision. That was having high visibility, communication, and an interest in kids. And I know people might think, saying, have an interest in kids? Of course we do. There are some teachers who didn't. And finally, both parts also had the same vehicle in how we would achieve that ultimate goal, vision, and focus. That was via the kids, the board and community, staff, and environment. A catchy phrase was needed, a phrase that everyone would click into, that they would understand and that they would remember. So each of the two plan parts had a specific name. Countdown 75, setting the standard, changing the ways. That was my first 75 days in the school. I left my previous position on the Friday at the end of term 3, 2008, and I was in Manarewa the very next day, the first Saturday of the term 3, 2008 holidays, accompanied by 3 mates who had absolutely nothing to do with teaching, helping me water blast the entire school. I was changing the ways immediately, giving a very clear message. Day 75 was the last day of the school term in term 4, 2008. The second part of the plan we called Rocketing 290 School Improvement Motivating Manarewa, being my next 290 days in the school. The Saturday after the end of the school year and ending on the anniversary of my first full year. Obviously, that sounds pretty simplistic, but underlying these two phrases was a pretty clear direction and the plan, both in my head and in writing, to ensure we did achieve these goals. The first day of Rocketing 290, or day 76, the painters moved in to paint the entire exterior from the top to the bottom, along with the builders to do up at least 2 rooms, so we had some rooms we could show off about. School improvement had started. Motivation would increase. So what did we set out to achieve specifically? How did we make this happen? Firstly, tidy up the bloody place. When we talk about tidying up the place, we're not just talking about the physical environment. We're also talking about the tone and the feel of the school, the culture and the way we talk to and with kids, where the school culture is positive and the tone is calm and happy, where adults talk nicely to kids and with each other, and they have fun as adults. But the easiest way to start addressing any challenge from an environment is the physical side of it. And that was, however, our first bit of action. Kids, staff, and community needed to feel pride in their school, so we had to get the school looking beautiful. Our kids deserve a good-looking space. We set out to transform rundown buildings and outdoor areas into a place that anyone would be proud of, to create softscapes and intimate physical areas that kids enjoyed being in. Now when you drive past our school, you can't help but admire how attractive and well kept it is, how clean and tidy it is, and this makes a massive impact on how a kid feels about school, and this does have a direct impact on their learning and achievement. The same can be said of our community. They fell back in love with our school. The proof of this is we haven't been vandalized or broken into since 2009. Next step, overhaul the culture. Love the kids. Kids needed to feel safe. They needed to have consistency surround them in everything they did and what was expected of them. They needed a place that made school cool and somewhere they wanted to be. We knew a lot of our kids were disengaged or disengaging with the schooling system. We knew many of our kids had far more issues to deal with at home than any of us could ever comprehend or realize. But this was not going to be an excuse. School had to be their safety net, their safe place, which enabled them to learn. We knew we had to make school the best part of our kids' day. The way we did almost everything had to change, and it had to bloody well change quickly. Only having our kids for 2 years meant the way we set up our school culture had to be intense and furious. So for those who don't understand, in New Zealand, our middle school system is just year 7 and 8. So half our school are brand new every single year, and half are leaving. So we only have them for 2 years. School singing, and our whānau competition, we had to have exciting new learning contexts and experiences, school-wide events, annual school survival camp, and a plethora of extras that made our kids go, wow. These are the things that got our kids through the gate and kept them coming back. Positivity, school spirit, and high energy had to race everywhere. The kids now wore a brand new uniform. They sported their proud whānau bands on their wrists, and they were living our new school vision: adventurous risk takers, persistent, focused achievement. I openly tell our kids how much I love my job, how excited and incredibly happy I am in my job. And teachers don't do that enough. We give the negative vibes, and we shouldn't. And how I love being at Manarewa Intermediate with them. I tell them I want to get to know them. I want to work with the staff to help them. And I want them all to love being here as well, as much as I did. I tell them all the teachers and all other staff like them, and they want to be here too, working with them, helping them, coaching them, loving them. And if the adults don't, then they bloody well shouldn't be there. This makes our kids proud, to be here when they know the adults in the school care for them and want to be there. Expect more of kids and the adults. Our kids are the best. Nobody had really told them that before, so we started telling them. We told them by letting them know that we expected better things from them. A new set of school rules, although we don't call them rules, they're called our Keys to Success, were developed by kids working in a focus group with myself and one of our DPs in charge of pastoral care. And it took 1.5 years. It took a long time because I knew we had to get it right. They would be our linchpin for the years to come, for everything we did. And our future generations of kids needed to know their big brothers, sisters, friends, neighbors, cousins developed them, not the adults. This ensured the kids owned them and brought into what they meant. And they're really simple. From now on, these simple sentences guided our kids both inside the classroom and out, be it in the school grounds or the wider community at large. And it put the focus on them being at school to learn. We were tough, but we were fair on kids. Every year I tell our kids it's a two-way street and that they also have to take a significant slice of responsibility for their learning and their behavior and give back. And how they do this is nothing new to any of us or innovative to any of us, nor is it difficult. It's just expected. They are expected to use their common sense and to practice and demonstrate practical and old-fashioned values, values that are still fully pertinent in today's world, yet may not have been transparently taught at home. It involves our kids being responsible, being respectful, and treating people the way they want to be treated, being honest and being loyal. And it also means to be successful here, they must communicate. They will accept their role, they will influence others, and they will be a positive competitor. We talk about competition, about not giving up. Competition is not a bad word. It is as basic as behaving well, trying hard, being polite and respectful to themselves, to other people, and to our whole school property and environment. We developed a graduate profile which detailed how and what we wanted our kids to leave middle school with. That is, as confident, self-directed, reflective, and sensible risk takers. And brave. I'm going to add brave into that now. Passionate about and turned on by the concept of lifelong learning, and with a love for learning. We told them we wanted them to feel great about themselves and their abilities, but also always striving to be better than before. Healthy competition is an element of our school, and they will know how to appropriately deal with success and or failure. We wanted them to know if something was not good enough or if it was simply unacceptable, and they would know that too. This is one of the realities of life, and I believe it's important that we help our learners know how to deal with this in the context of a safe, empowering, and positive learning environment. Our kids needed to be accepting of consequences for their choices, actions, or decisions, be they positive or negative, understanding that consequences, like success and failure, are part of life. Kids need to know where they stand, and they were always expected to follow reasonable expectations. We believed in drawing lines, and if they go up to the line, they are fine. Cross the line, they're in trouble. And we talked about not complaining when they suffer the consequences, when they know what's expected. Some may think these concepts are of the last century, or even the one before, but I disagree. They are good, old-fashioned values that work, and kids need to know what is acceptable or not and accept the consequences either way. We were tough, but fair on staff as well. We had to expect more from them, and many of them had to take more responsibility. As someone wiser than I said, kids deserve an excited adult. Kids deserve an excited adult. So our staff had to be this. Our kids needed and deserved staff who were ready to explore and laugh with them all day. Someone who was looking for those magic moments, full of high fives all the time, full of energy and passion. Our kids want and need us, the adults, to come to school ready to surround them with love, encouragement, hope, and positivity. Our kids need the best adult. Adults who are the best every single day. And I often say to our staff, they need to be the teacher they would want their very own kids to have in front of them every day. When that's said, it's very confronting. So yes, this is tough. Teachers have a demanding enough job teaching, let alone encapsulating the whole gamut of the relationship stuff. But I seriously believe if the relationship stuff is right and you get that right first, you need that before you can teach effectively. Once you nail the relationship stuff, teaching is a breeze. So we made sure the systems and structures in place make it easier for teachers to teach, with affirmations and other things to recognize this. A rigorous and robust appraisal and support system focusing on acknowledging positive success and contribution, increased responsibility, and raising capacity was set up, devised by a focus group of staff to ensure that responsibility was indeed a focus. Teachers knew that they needed to put in the hard yards for our kids. Support systems were put in place to enable staff to get the help they needed when they needed it, not just in regards to planning lessons or managing behaviour, but also in building relationships, engaging with the community and contributing to the life of the school, and staying on top of everything that is thrown at you every single day as a teacher. Many thrived, many did not. And those that did not needed to go or needed to be pushed. At the same time, our board and community were heavily involved in working out what it was our school stood for from a strategic perspective. Very, very successful hui or meetings were held to develop our revised vision, values and qualities, and strategic goals. This experience was so heartening and dovetailed so nicely with everything we were trying to do inside the school day. The support of and from our parents and community was huge, and they wanted us to be successful, and they wanted their kids to be successful. That spurred us on. We, the staff, now needed to find and develop the vehicle to achieve what our community rightly expected of us, to ensure we had a teaching structure and a learning program that would indeed ensure our kids were successful in achieving our new school vision. And note, we didn't get to the teaching stuff until all the relationship stuff and engagement stuff was done first. We needed to have students who strive to reach their potential, who are socially aware and active, behaving in socially acceptable ways as part of the community, and that they are academically powerful. So we needed a new, innovative, relevant, and child-centered program. We thought about achievement and what this would look like for our kids. So we went about defining what we believe achievement looked like in our place. Not just about numbers and data. That's one of the luxuries in New Zealand where we don't have an examination system, etc. We decided it was the value added to the holistic well-being of every child at every opportunity. This then drove us with all our curriculum development, but that's another talk. Another significant change was the move away from the traditional leadership structure of a New Zealand primary, intermediate or middle school, where there are a couple of deputy principals and a team of curriculum leaders, where responsibilities are spread wide and at times not met very effectively, with messages often getting diluted somewhere along the chain from the principal to the classroom teacher and back up the chain. So we developed a very different structure, which has been working superbly. Some things changed straight away. Other things took a bit of time. As always, staff buy-in was mixed. Most totally did. Some totally didn't. And as I said before, chose to move on or were moved on. Staff that initially weren't fully on board but remained started coming around and really buying into the new ways of doing things for our kids. The effects that the changes had on the kids were astounding. They were proud of Manarewa Intermediate. They loved what was happening, and they started to switch on to learning. Attendance skyrocketed. Over the past 7 years, we annually averaged between 93 to 96%, which shows that kids want to be here, the poorest community in our country. Behaviour issues decreased. Lines of kids at the Deputy Principal's office were a thing of the past, as kids didn't want to miss out on their learning anymore. There is no graffiti at our school. Our kids care for their property and environment. Quality of teaching increased. Teachers became very focused and developed their practice. And by no means are all our teachers amazing. They're not. However, as everyone in our profession knows, there's no time to rest on our laurels. Teaching is an extremely dynamic profession, and continually examining the way we do things to be even better is a major part of what we do, so that we really are able to keep being better than before. The challenge we have, and I guess all school leaders has, is maintaining what we do. And that is hard on all staff, especially in a 2-year middle school setup, with the constant turnover of half the kids every year. We have urgent business when they arrived, many of them reading at a 6 to 7-year-old reading age, yet they're 12. The urgent business when they arrive means we can't waste the 8 terms we have with them over the 2 years. And to be able to do this, a middle school must have the staff culture right, because it is the staff that have to set the tone, the culture, and the vim as each new cohort of kids walk through our doors. And these new kids, every single year, have to buy into that vision and oomph immediately. Only possible if all our staff are fully on board and involved, and have it in buckets, and that's a massive ask. However, we're really fortunate to have a staff team that really are resilient and consistently passionate for all we are trying to do for our kids. And it is this, along with surrounding myself with highly competent and great personalities in our leadership team who have the skills that I'm useless at, that really is our secret ingredient. We also all agree that we need to maintain that real sense of passion and positivity, to constantly be thinking beyond the confines of what we already know, and to be creative and innovative, to take risks, to get more purposeful in all we do. And yep, sometimes we fuck it up. We fall over and we fall flat on our faces. But we have to try so that we can constantly improve and give our kids the best deal possible. And we know this can be hard and the demands can be huge. But if we do this, we will continue to be the passionate people we can be, and mostly are. Intelligent, hard-working, committed people. People who play silly buggers with their friends, who sing in the shower, who strum a guitar, who go to operas and share concerts, and watch the Springboks beat the Wallabies, who look at their stamp collections, who play sport, who read for pleasure, who get in bad moods, who laugh uncontrollably when we're told a dirty joke, who love to down a few beers and pop open the Chardonnay, who are professional and positive and happy, and any of the other things that make us passionate leaders and teachers in our school. And one of the most important things we have learnt over this whole process of building our positive culture, processes and strategies, as we attempted to change our school for the better, whether a leader, teacher or support staff member, is for us to keep alive the sense of optimism and hope that will enthuse us and keep us working purposely for those precious kids in our classes, every single hour, every single day, every single week, every month, all year, every year. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.